wish list for me, make a really quick little rating system at the end of the dungeon, whether it finishes or not, where you can say, hey, Tank was great at his attitude, his awareness, and his application of his character. He knew how to press defenses. He was throwing off heals and using utility. The enhancement shaman was rude, threatened to leave the key. He was failing to, positional awareness and standing in fire, and just wasn't. He didn't do any kicks, right? Like so, and this is something where you just, it's 3 lines. You go 4-star, 4-star, 5-star, or 1-1-1, right? Now, some of that may be, give or take, right? But make it visible to everybody in the key. There's games that do that, right? At the end of the game, you can see who scored you as like the all-star and who got like bad reviews. Some of that may be negatively implied, and people may feel depressed about that. I don't know how that goes, but that's a wild take that I think I would love to see in the game, is a rating system for players' attitude, awareness, and application.
I agree with this to a certain level. The wild take for me is actually having a way to negatively vote, like the 1-star that you mentioned. Because I'm unfortunately I'm one game Andy, but I used to play some games back in the day, and I think it was one of like the Dota team games where you play with 5 other people, and then at the end of the game, you were only allowed to choose the MVP if you wanted to. Like, you could vote
Mm.
for that person, and if you don't want to vote, you don't want to vote, right? But there was like no negative type of voting.
Oh,
So the idea there is, if somebody performed really well and like you were impressed by them, obviously you cannot vote for yourself. You could vote for somebody else to be the MVP. And if somebody, let's say, if the tank was like doing those pulls, they never died and they interrupted everything, and you're like, oh, this guy carried the dungeon, you can definitely
yeah.
vote for them. And then I agree this rate, if there is a rating like that, and it doesn't matter how many different things you can vote for, but that should be visible so people can see, okay, this guy definitely performed well in some dungeons, and I guess it has to be bugs because it doesn't make sense to vote in an organized group. But this
Sure.
guy got voted by other players in the pug with a good rating. So now I kind of can rely on him. I know that he's a good
Mhm.
player. I know that he's not gonna like quit, etc., and so forth. And I think that's gonna be good for the game. I definitely think that could have some positive impact. I don't think though that if you have negative ways to negatively vote people, that's gonna be sufficient, because there's, I think we can agree on this, but there's a lot of toxicity in Mythic Plus specifically.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I will give an example with the way that the one thing that kind of has like a negative voting is, if you're, let's say, doing time walking dungeons, which is like heroic level, whatever. There's a way to kick somebody. You can vote to kick somebody,
Yeah.
and if everybody in the group votes yes after you initialize this voting process, they kick the people out of the group, right? Yes, all 4 other people need to agree, but I've seen some very toxic things happen there. So people would try to vote, let's say you're playing tank, whatever, and then you see that there's a DPS that's below the healer. People would vote this person out because he's doing bad DPS, right? So it's not like he did something, it's not like he said something bad.
Sure. Yeah.
He's just learning the class, he's not a good
Yeah.
player. But I don't
Yep.
think that should be a reason for you to be kicked from that dungeon, right? Which is
Yeah.
basically that negative vote working. But people do that because they
Yeah.
have the
True.
opportunity. The system is
The
there.
power's there.
Yeah,
Yep.
they utilize it in ways that they shouldn't be. So if there is a negative voting, I think that people would be like, you could be the best player, but maybe you said something and you triggered somebody. And it could be like, I do that sometimes. I try not to, but I see somebody like not kicking, for example. And I'm like, hey, can you please use your interrupt?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
some people would take it as an advice and they would start using it. But some people take it like, ooh, this guy's telling me how to play my class. Who the hell is this guy? Like, why should I listen to them? And they
Yeah.
reply to
Plus,
me.
we have a pally tank. I
Yeah.
don't need to kick.
I don't need to kick. Yeah. So, and then the person replies back, and then it becomes this pointless argument because nobody's ever going to win it. Like, people are not going to change from few lines that you
Yep.
type in chat in Mythic Plus. So in situations like that, they would start using this negative voting as a way to revenge whatever happened, whatever arguments they have. and those arguments are not necessarily going to be relative to how you performed because somebody said something, right? You could be the top
Yeah.
DPS, but somebody
Yep.
can vote
Yep.
you that
And they
you're
still vote
bad
you negative.
because, yeah.
Yeah.
So I
Yep. I
don't
see
think the
that.
negative system would be impactful, but if there's a way to only positively vote, and basically your negative vote would be not voting, but that doesn't
Yeah.
affect your score.
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe that's something that
That's a good idea.
they
Yeah.
can work
I
on.
like that. I think it's a good compromise. Yeah, for sure. I think
Yeah.
that would work. I like that.